Hi, Dr. B here. Welcome to Dr. B Uncensored, where we interview candid thought leaders, entrepreneurs, and founders to tell their story to inspire others to do the same. Hopefully, you enjoyed this episode. Hi, everybody. Welcome to another edition of my show. Dr. B here with the great Justin Dixon. Justin, how are you, sir?
I'm great, man. Thanks for
Great,
having me
man.
on.
Yeah. Anytime, brother. Um, Recording in the summer of 25, right? So winding down, but it's all
Yeah.
good. It's all good. Let's open up telling everyone about yourself.
Yeah. So, Justin Dixon, I'm a recruiter by trade. I've been in the recruiting industry for almost 20 years now, since pretty much fell into the industry right out of college. Didn't know that it was a career path to go down until I was in it, and haven't gotten out of it, rightly or wrongly. And back in January of 2020, I left a corporate job to start my own recruiting business, Hire Tomorrow, just before COVID started, which was not a good time to start a recruiting business right before the world effectively shut down. But we did. I grew up in Pennsylvania. I spent most of my career in Philadelphia. And then in October of 2020, actually, my wife and I moved to Austin, Texas, where we are right now. So that's a very high level overview.
I love it. Tell us about your education. Where'd you go to school? Um, and where'd you
Yeah,
get
I
your
went
school
to
degree?
Yeah, yeah. No, I went to I knew I grew up in a very small town in central PA, and effectively I knew very early on that I did not want to live in that area for the rest of my life. So I was like, all right, I need to go to college, so I can get a job and move out of my hometown, which perfect for people that want to live there. No negatives, but I went to a small state school called Bloomsburg University in kind of north central PA. And then back in 2016, I started my MBA at Temple when I was living in Philadelphia, and got my MBA at the end of 2018, actually. So yeah, went to a small state school, and then a decent sized state school in Temple.
I love that. I was a guest lecturer one time for I don't remember the guy's name. I did it virtual during COVID at Temple.
Oh, cool.
Temple's a good school. It's a very good school. So
Yeah.
good, good man. You already alluded to it a little bit. You gave the audience a taste. So tell me about it. Starting a firm January 2020, right before the world shut down. He was the head of recruitment for a wealth management firm, and then to starting hiring. Hired tomorrow. I must call it hiring tomorrow. Dedicated to assisting PE and startups finding the right talent. So tell me, like, what was that pivotal moment or situation, or tell me, give me give us the behind the scenes of how that actually.
Yeah. Yeah, it was kind of like a 2 year process, frankly, because my both my wife and I are very risk averse individuals, and I'm not the type of person that has an idea and then just jumps in with both feet and kind of burns all the ships and just says I'm gonna make it because I've got no other options. And so I kind of knew I wanted to start my own business, especially kind of as I was in my MBA. You learn a lot about business and how to run businesses, and I also had read a book called Rich Dad Poor Dad, which really kind of flipped the switch of like, oh, I should think about how I want to be investing my time, investing my money, not necessarily just helping somebody else build their own business. At the time, I was working for Comcast, so massive Fortune 30 company. And I was like, I kind of want to do my own thing. And then I got recruited by the wealth management firm, Glenn Mead. And so that was kind of the start of my journey. I was like, okay, well, I need to get myself in a financial position where I feel comfortable, or my wife and I both feel comfortable that we have enough kind of financial backing, that when I do jump out, that we're not just like burning cash, we're not overexpending. And so we were very intentional for probably about an 18-month period. We had ended up buying a duplex out in Pittsburgh, Pennsylvania. So we had that cash flowing, so we were getting some passive income there. We owned a condo in Philadelphia. We ended up moving to the suburbs and moved into a smaller apartment, and we rented out our condo, so we had a second kind of passive income stream from that property. And effectively, we were downgrading our lifestyles intentionally, just as most people are expanding theirs, buying houses, having kids, all the other stuff. And we were intentionally doing the exact opposite to set ourselves up so that if things went wrong in my recruiting business, I didn't do well, I didn't like it, whatever, we weren't going to ruin ourselves financially. Little did we know that COVID was going to happen, and that was definitely not in our bingo card, obviously. But yeah, so we were downgrading our lifestyles, and then kind of end of 2019, I was like, all right, I'm going to start 2020 off right. I'm going to go into my boss's office. I'm going to quit my job and fully focus on Hire Tomorrow. We also were doing some other real estate investing stuff. And so then COVID just kind of kicked us in the face, just like everybody else in the world. And that was not an easy year because I made less than half of the amount of money that I made in my W-2 job. Obviously, we had no idea what was going to happen in 2021 and beyond, how long this pandemic was going to, carry on for. So yeah, it was very trying and very kind of unsettling as a new entrepreneur, as a first-time entrepreneur. Um, but luckily, my wife and I were in lockstep. We both, knew that this was a risk going into it. We set ourselves up both mentally and financially to hopefully weather any storm that we possibly ran into. And so, while the year was tough, it could have been a lot worse. Let's just put it that way. So yeah, it was not a great start, but I'm still around, which is great. I'm still married, which is even better.
There
And
you
so
go.
we're good to
Still
go.
around, still married. I love it. I
Yeah.
love it. Tell me, I didn't send you this by the way. This is like a bonus. What this is like the third time I asked this question because everyone that I've spoken to today have been started around or near COVID. So this is
Mm.
the third time I asked this question today. So, what did starting a business in 2020? I guess serendipity or I guess hindsight 2020. What has it like from a resistance standpoint? What did it teach you?
I would say, and I talked to a lot of people throughout 2020 who had started businesses, even during the 0809 recession and financial crisis. And so the kind of thing I kept hearing most often is if you can weather this storm, other people are going to shut up shop, other people are going to go back to the working world, et cetera, et cetera. So if you can kind of just keep doing what you're doing, maybe you're not making a ton of money, but like if you can kind of get through this, you can pretty much get through anything, right? And so I think while it was looking back and being in it, it was very nerve wracking. It was very, like what the heck did I do? I completely ruined my career and all this other stuff. And I just kept, thinking about, okay, if I could just keep putting one foot in front of the other, keep showing up, keep waking up, not like just sleeping all day, because my wife was working, right? She was a W-2 and luckily our expenses kind of were covered by her salary. So we weren't like spending or burning cash. But it was stressful on her just as much, if not more so than it was on me. Cause like she was like the breadwinner at that moment, right? Like she's the one that's like got a W-2. She's got to keep that job because we needed to pay our bills. But from like my standpoint, it really kind of set me up to say, okay, if I can get through this, I can figure something else out and kind of get through kind of anything. That doesn't make it any easier to live through for sure, but at least like, okay, because I lost a client a few months ago that was a major client through no fault of my own. They just kind of hired somebody internally and they didn't need to use an external resource anymore. It's like, well, that could have really derailed like my mindset of like, shit, I just lost a big stream of income. Like, what do I do? I just went out and found another one, right? And that this one is now going to generate more revenue than the one that I lost. So it's just like one of those things where you kind of like you're never losing. You're either winning or learning, right? And so it's easy to say. It's tough to kind of live that ethos when you're in a shit sandwich.
In the
But
heat of the moment, right?
but
Exactly.
it, it's one thing you get the scars from these weird situations, and hopefully they allow you to weather the storm because inevitably there's going to be another one, right?
Yeah.
So it's just hopefully you can get through it.
Agreed, agreed. Yeah, recently, I would say a few months ago, I lost similar situation to you. I lost a major client. I've had it for a couple of years, and I was like, "Oh crap, what do I do next?" Right? And then now, I started a high ticket group coaching program, and then finally now those two individuals will cover basically what the client was covering. So there you go, man.
Yeah,
You just gotta you win and learn, and you figure it out, as they say, right? So I love it.
yeah,
Yeah, man. Let's fast forward to 2025, right? Present time or present day,
yep.
right? So AI in the recruiting hiring space, like how do you work with it? Are you for it, against it? How do you make it work for you?
Yeah, so I think first and foremost, I'm for it. I
It's a
think
very big question, by the way. Very,
it's a big question, but I think if you're not for AI, I think you're going to be left in the dust. And I don't necessarily mean that you need to be building agents and developing all these things. I think if you're not playing with it, you're not talking to it, you're not leveraging it in some form or fashion more so than just helping you write a better email. I think, the longer the AI grows and gets smarter and hopefully, things get even better than they are now, like if you just say like, nah, I'm gonna stick with my pager and my BlackBerry, right? You're gonna be kind of left in the dust. And so I think I'm using it on a pretty much daily basis. I always have ChatGPT open because I've built a few kind of projects in there that are essentially my like board. Like I've created kind of an AI board for myself. So if I'm ever thinking about how to approach a new client or a new industry or something, I kind of have three people. I've got a financial, like a CFO, I've got a CRO, and then I've got a COO. So I kind of ask the same question to all three to get their perspective from their specific area of the business, right? Finance or operations or revenue. And so it's kind of interesting. So, as a solopreneur, like I don't have other partners that I can talk to bounce ideas off of. And, I'm sat here in my office, 8, 9, 10 hours a day. And so it's comforting to have somebody that is got the access to essentially all information ever. And they can recall that information in a nanosecond. And so while it's not perfect, there are some hallucinations, and I've actually had one a little while ago, which was kind of fascinating to kind of see it happen. I was like, "Holy crap!" Like you're just telling me what I want to know, not what's actually true, which I thought was interesting. But so I'm leveraging it. I think you have to be at the very least, playing with it, kind of trying to teaching yourself how to prompt it. Um, in the recruitment world, it's kind of an interesting dilemma because a lot of companies are throwing AI into every piece of recruiting technology that exists. A lot of it is a fancy name on a chatbot that ChatGPT can do. Some of it's actually interesting. So every applicant tracking system now has some type of AI in it. Some of it's great. I think some of it still has a little bit of work to do. Um, but the interesting thing is, it's actually causing more business to come my way because the startups and the small businesses that I tend to work with, um, they are now getting inundated with applicants to any job that they post. Because you can hire, if you're a candidate looking for a job, you can hire a bot to auto apply for you. It'll customize your resume based on the job description, and that sounds awesome. But what it's doing is allowing hundreds, if not thousands, of applicants to apply to a job to a company that has 50 people, and the person that has to review all those job applications is an HR person who doesn't want to recruit. They don't have the time to do it. And so I'm getting calls to say, hey, Justin, can you just go find me somebody? Because I don't want to post this job. I don't want to get inundated with candidates. And so I'm actually getting more business because small businesses can't manage the application flow. And it's kind of an interesting dynamic that's going on right now. But in the long term, I think it could become, it's making me more efficient. I will say that. And I think other big companies are leveraging it and making their recruiters more efficient, which is great. But yeah, it's kind of interesting. Everybody's rushing to use it and deploy it. And I was actually just talking to a private equity guy that I know that does value creation and operations for a lot of portfolio companies. And he was just telling me, he's like, a lot of companies, when they heard AI, they're like, we need to put it in our product or we need to use it in our company. And they rushed as fast as they possibly could to implement something. And then adoption was very low. They didn't do it correctly. They didn't spend enough time, training it or whatever. And so now they're now more reluctant to reinvest in AI because they're like, well, the first version didn't go well. Like, is the second one going to be better? And so it's kind of this interesting dynamic that everybody's kind of pumped a bunch of cash into AI, and maybe they didn't set it up or spend enough time thinking of, is this the right application for it or not?
Almost reminds me of real estate. You can't just jump into it. You gotta do due diligence and check pros and cons, and then from there make a decision. But I
Yeah.
agree with you. I agree with you from that perspective. Like even for me, like I use it similar to you. Like as far as ChatGPT, and I use it for prompts and for some of the projects that I have, and now I'm actually going to invest in a bot for my website for FAQs, and
Yeah.
I'm automating a lot of my process and all that. So yeah, so I've embraced it. In the beginning, I wasn't resistant to it, but I was slow to adopt it. But now, like I'm at it full speed. I'm at it full speed.
Yeah.
It's the only way to survive, right? So, speaking of surviving, how do you think startups can compete with some of the larger brands for talent?
Well, I think that's one of the reasons why. Well, that's one of the reasons why I actually focus primarily on small to mid-sized businesses. Is because, if you're a Meta or a Google and you post a job, or you try to have a recruiter reach out to candidates and you've got Google in your email address, it's a lot. People are more interested typically to talk to them because they have brand recognition and all that fun stuff. But small businesses, startups, while they have kind of a sex appeal of a startup, like, hey, cool, we just raised a bunch of money and now we're growing at X% per year. They don't have the brand recognition necessarily to command a ton of eyeballs when they post a job. And so I like to be able to be that kind of advocate for the startup. Be like, hey, let me go talk to people for you and explain why it would be awesome to go work for this company versus maybe a bigger company or another startup because maybe they have a better backer, right? A lot of times when I get brought into private equity backed companies, I want to know who their funder is because a lot of times they have some type of reputation around talent. And are they really just like, hey, let's kind of acquire this company and go in and just rip out all the talent and then sell it for parts? Or are they very much like, hey, let's make sure we're investing in the people that got us here and hopefully they can get us to the next level? Because that goes back to just telling the story and being able to explain to a candidate why the company that I'm representing versus somebody else that they're looking at may be a better choice. And then it's up to the candidate, obviously, to decide, and also ultimately up to the actual company to explain and sell to the candidate what makes them so unique. And so I like to take that responsibility when asked to go out and kind of like virtually tap people on the shoulder and say, hey, you may be looking for a new job. I may have a company that you have probably never heard of, but let me tell you a little bit about them and why I think they're a good fit. And typically, I've got a track record with them where I've hired a bunch of people. And so that just makes my job, super fun because I get to, introduce companies to candidates that they probably never would have heard of.
Makes a lot of sense. So similar to what I do with the nonprofit world, or even the entrepreneurship world, or even in real estate world. Fair to say that it's about having the right team, right? Right
Yeah.
people around you, right? So like as an example, me, I have a small team, but maybe leverage you on your experience, your knowledge, your network in order to help fill my next role, as opposed to me trying to figure it out, right? So no, agreed,
Yeah,
agreed.
I mean, most people wanna they look at working with a recruiter as a cost, right? It's a X% of salary or it's some fixed rate cost or whatever. Um, I don't discount that, but I also look at it like, okay, what if I was able to find you a better person faster than you would have done it on yourself? And not only did you save, yes, you spent a little bit of money, you invest a little bit of money in that process, but you didn't have to spend any time doing it, right? That's what some people don't realize. Like, oh, I've spent 10 hours this week looking at applications. What could I have been doing for those 10 hours? And what was my hourly rate for that, right? So you got to think about your time, into that kind of cost analysis of like, do I want to work with an external recruiter or not? And most people just look at the sticker price of like, holy crap, I'm going to pay, X%. And it's like, well, yes, but let me give you back all your time that you aren't spending sifting through and talking through candidates that aren't the right fit.
Time is money, as I say. Time is money,
That's right.
right? Hey man, so I was also checking out your website and all that. So how important is it? Let me take a step back. How important is mindset, right? Before anything else. How important is that entrepreneurial mindset, knowing that you may not get a check every 2 weeks, like at a W-2, unless you have a retainer or some kind. But how important is mindset in this process?
I mean, I think it's paramount, especially if you're a solopreneur. You've got, maybe some employees, but you're the chief, right? You don't have partners that you can kind of bounce ideas off of. It's a lonely road. Like if you're a solopreneur, and my job can be done exactly where I am right now, being sat behind a computer. I don't have to see people. I don't have to talk to people other than on the phone, typically, or on Zoom. And so when it's great, it's cool. I can just sit here and make money and do what I love to do and find people. When it's tough and like when you're going through a slump, it's rough because it's not like I've got a coworker to go talk to. Like my wife goes to her office twice a week, right? And so she's like made relationships and friendships in her workspace, which is where most people make friends or at least have acquaintances that they talk to and hang out with, outside of the office. And so as a solopreneur, as a small business owner, even if you have a fully remote team, it's important to like force yourself to go out and see people in real life. Like I try to have at least one or two coffees a week with people just to get out and talk to people and share what I'm going through, share positives, negatives. Because if you just sit here, you can get into a spiral of like, well, I shouldn't be making this amount of money, or I shouldn't be this successful, or whatever. And so having the right mindset, and that is not something that you get overnight. You have to work at it, just like going to the gym and trying to, increase your bench or your squat or whatever. You got to work at it. It doesn't happen just by flipping a switch. So I think it's immensely important to have the right mindset, but then you've got to back that mindset up with execution and the grit that's needed to do your own business, whether it's a services business or a brick and mortar or whatever the case is. It's a lot more work than you anticipate. There's a lot of fun stuff, but there's also a lot of stuff that you don't really think about before you actually get into it.
I love it. It's kind of like mindset is very important, right? Because without it, you're not gonna do anything, right? But then you don't want to get stuck in analysis by paralysis and not take action either, right? So it's got to
That's right.
be a right balance of the two or three things, right? Because the third step is to take action, the actual action, right? So I love that. Winding down, how has podcasting helped you? And tell us about what you got going on.
Yeah, so I've had this is my second podcast that I have. So my podcast is the Growth Capital Podcast. I had one in real estate, commercial real estate, a couple years ago because I was doing a lot of real estate. I was investing and raising money and all that fun stuff. And for me, I'm a bit of an well, I'm not a bit of I am an introvert by nature. So going out to networking events and all that fun stuff is not where I get a ton of energy. Having a podcast is essentially doing what I do all day and what I love to do and interview people. It's just recorded and shared with the world. And so, having my own podcast allows me to reach out to people that maybe I wouldn't have the chance to talk to, or maybe they wouldn't be interested in talking to me because I'm looked at as a recruiter and oh, I don't want to, talk to that person. So all my guests are either startup founders, they're private equity professionals, or they're CEOs. And so it's very cool to be able to have a startup founder on my podcast and have them share their story of how they started whatever they're building from scratch. And so it's allowed me to not only share my story, but share their story. And it's a platform for me to be able to allow people to jump on and kind of have a platform to share what they're working on, which I think is a lot of fun. And I get a lot of enjoyment because I get to meet people, like I said, that I wouldn't have ever met before. And some of them I meet only virtually, other ones I meet virtually. And then luckily they're here in Austin and I can go grab a coffee or a beer or whatever with them. And like I said before, meet them in real life. So I think it's great. I don't like to make content. So podcasts are great because you can snip out, quotes and shorts and videos and all the other fun stuff. So it allows me to create content without really feeling like I'm creating content.
I agree, and I think if it wasn't for podcasting, I would have not met like awesome people like you, and have started to build great relationships out of podcasts in the past few weeks. So this is pretty.
Yeah.
I love it. I love it. Cool, man. Where can people find more information about you and or your organization?
Yeah, I mean, website's easy, hiretomorrow.com, HIRE tomorrow.com. But obviously, check me out on LinkedIn. I post a ton of stuff on LinkedIn. I'm going to start posting more around kind of helping people get jobs because right now it is becoming a little bit more of a tougher job market for candidates. Certain candidates are having more hard times than others, and so stay tuned for some kind of recruiter tips that will hopefully help make that job search process a little bit smoother. But yeah, LinkedIn probably the easiest way and the quickest way to get a hold of me. And yeah, I'm happy to help and talk to anybody that's looking for a job or looking to fill a job, essentially.
I love it. Thank you so much for your time, man. I enjoyed our conversation a lot. I usually like to clock it at 30 minutes or close to it, so I appreciate our time
Yeah.
today, man. And thanks so much for being on my show.
No, I appreciate it. It was fun.
Thanks, man. Justin Dixon, everybody. Take care. Hi, everybody. Dr. B here, Dr. B Uncensored. Hopefully, you enjoyed that episode. Remember, you are one big deal away. Please like, comment, and subscribe to the YouTube channel now. Take care.